fire conical shaped rounds similar to the ones we fire today, and those rounds will now spin instead of rattle, meaning your rounds will now go much farther, much faster, and be much more accurate. Because that can fire that 60-pound shot up to 2 to 2.5 miles, but it can hit the same exact brick over and over and over again. So these are the guns that we're using to shoot those ships out of the water. With that being said, this 12-pound mountain howitzer gets its name from the fact it shoots a 12-pound cannonball. So do you think I'm going to be using this to shoot at anything particular? Not so much so. Remember, I got much larger guns shooting much larger shots, much further distance for that. Instead, my ultimate goal with this gun is to put as much death and destruction downrange as we possibly can, making it one of the more popular field artillery pieces of the war. Because these guns up top may be able to shoot larger shots and shoot them farther, but they weigh about 8,000 or 9,000 pounds. It's a little bit more unwieldy. This gun here, carriage included, weighs about 700 pounds. But despite the fact that it weighs about 700 pounds, the carriage in which it's built on makes this gun completely weightless. That means it only takes one soldier to immediately change your field of fire. That also means that this gun can be disassembled in a matter of minutes, put on the back of a horse or a mule, and this gun can go anywhere a horse or a mule can go. Has anybody ever heard of Kennesaw Mountain? Find a number of mountain howitzers home there. For those of you unfamiliar, just imagine being able to run a cannon up the side of a mountain, in which you can look down on everything that sits below you. Is probably one of the most favorable positions that I'd ever want to be in. Now, a gun of this size would usually have a crew of anywhere from 5 to 7 soldiers. Each one would have a very particular and specific job on this gun. However, when I go to fire this gun, I'm going to be demonstrating a drill known as the diminished man's number, meaning that it's just going to be me. The reason why is, again, throughout much of this war and much of the South, my biggest threat will never be blood and bullets. It will be disease, and it will be the environment. Meaning I may not have 5 to 7 soldiers. I may only have 4. I may only have 2. My ugly mug may be the only one that is still standing and has not run. If that is the case, you still need to be an effective gun crew. You still need to be able to put rounds down range. So every single soldier was trained on every position of this gun, in case they were the only ones still standing on it. Now, regardless of if we are talking about a historical firearm or a modern-day firearm, there is an order of operations that must be done to clear that weapon and be ready to fire your next shot. And so we're going to go through the order of operations that is needed in order to clear this weapon, load it, and prime it, and fire off that round. So step number 1 is to ensure that we have a safe and cleared gun tube in order to fire. Meaning if we've been firing this gun all day, it is very likely that we have fragments of our last shot still in there. The black powder can cause carbon buildups on the side of our gun tube that can prevent our round from being seated properly. So the first tool we are going to use is this tool here. This is known as a worm. This coiled metal end is inserted into the muzzle, pushed all the way to the back of the gun, and clear up any obstructions and be able to remove any fragments of our last shot. Want to help me out, good sir?
Sure.
All righty, you gonna take that one for me? You're gonna come right up here, good sir. So I need you to put this one in there, all the way, right here in the muzzle, and push it all the way to the back. Because if we don't do this, again, you can have your round loaded and then seated halfway, and that is never a good day. So this is a very vital step in the process to load this weapon. So give it a good spin. All right, and go ahead and pull her out for me. And you go ahead and set it right down there on the side. So once we've ensured that there's no obstructions in this gun, we are now ready to move to the next step. So the next thing we need to use is this tool here, known as a sponge rammer, for the fact that it has a sponge and it has a rammer. They're very intuitive with the names. Now this sponge will be wetted and then wrung out. And then it will be passed down the length of the barrel. So I don't have any volunteers for the sponge. Great shirt. Don't worry, I'm going to be picking on a lot of you. Don't worry. Game over right up here, good sir. Yes, sir. Now, I need you to stand right there for me, all right? I'll tell you what you're going to be doing. So this sponge is going to be passed down the barrel of this gun tube. So go ahead and push that sponge all the way down. Now, the reason we're doing this is not to clean the weapon. The reason we are doing this is to extinguish any of the black powder embers that still remain, because black powder doesn't burn evenly. If we've been firing this gun all day, it's still likely we have smoldering embers on the inside of this gun tube. What do you think happens when you throw a pound and a half of gunpowder in a smoking gun tube? That is also not a very good day. So it is a very vital step. But another thing that is needed in order to ensure that we've extinguished those embers is this back vent hole has to be covered. The reason why is go ahead and pull this out and push it in. Just a quick, fast motion. Over and over. You guys hear that noise? If that vent hole is not covered, as soon as he pulls that out, that vent hole is going to suck in that rich, clean oxygen. And you only need one ember to ignite before that powder is going to slow burn and cook off. And so you, good sir, need to be able to cover this back vent, all right? So go ahead and cover it. Now pull it out and run it down one more time for me. Give it a spin. Now pull it out. Now flip it around and tap it with this part right here. Go boom, boom. Why he taps it is because if you're on artillery, you better believe you're probably deaf. These guns are very, very loud, and they have really no forethought and an idea of it being as loud as it is. So if you have the grace of God to be artillery, you better accept the fact you will be deaf by the end of your enlistment. And so they're going to incorporate a lot of hand signals into facilitating the loading of this gun, so you don't have to be so much worried on relying on word of mouth. Now one of my pieces is missing. Give me 1 sec. So this is what's known as the lumber chest. This is where all your ammunition is kept.